Francis Ngannou is officially one of the biggest names in heavyweight boxing, and he's going to expose heavyweight boxing and boxing all together once again, because I believe he's going to knock out the overrated Anthony Joshua, and I think that Francis Ngannou fumbled the bag as well. All right? He should have stayed in the UFC for his $50K to show, $50K to win. I'm just joking about the amount of money, but you get the point. Francis Ngannou made the right move. Just because other fighters wouldn't necessarily have the same success doesn't mean that he's not winning right now. So there's still going to be some people coping about it, which is funny. But either way, Francis Ngannou is going to knock Anthony Joshua out. All right? The days of boxers being miles ahead of MMA fighters when it comes to being technical are long gone. Boxing is a declining sport, and I think the big reason as to why we're going to see competitive matchups between guys like Francis and Joshua, like we did with Francis and Tyson Fury, is because less people are going into boxing, right? 30, 40 years ago, 70% of people that were going into combat sports would have gone right into boxing. The other 30%, they'd be sparsed out amongst wrestling and judo and whatever. But now, given the fact that the UFC and MMA in general is like the biggest combat sport in the world, kids grow up dreaming of being a UFC champion, all right? People like me are not tuning in to watch boxing on the weekends. Even when there aren't any UFC fights, I didn't even watch Anthony Joshua's last card, Deontay Wilder's last card, right? You know how like boxing all of a sudden is getting praised, or the Saudis are getting praised for putting on these big fights that everyone wants to see? They had Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder fight on the same card and they couldn't even fight each other. Are you fucking kidding me? And people think that boxing's making a comeback? This has to be a joke. And also, again, with less people going into boxing, there's just less talent, man. There's less competition. MMA has the better athletes. MMA has more talent right now. And we just saw that Francis Ngannou, a sloppy MMA striker that was given no chance, after one training camp, was able to beat the best heavyweight boxer on the planet. And you're going to tell me that he's biting off more than he can chew against Anthony Joshua, who just beat Otto Wallin, who's a fucking can? Oh, Otto Wallin. I don't care about Otto Wallin. The guy's a pipsqueak with no power, who looks sloppy as hell. Francis Ngannou would chin him in the first round. Give me a break. Imagine how well Cyril Gahn would do if he crossed into boxing right now. You know what he would do to Otto Wallin off of one training camp? What would Sergey Pavlovich do off of one training camp? I know Ngannou's built different, which is another reason why he's just going to beat Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua's not even known for hitting that hard, man. He's not. He may be a little bit crisper than Fury these days, right? Those wars that Fury and Deontay Wilder had really took a lot out of them. Because a lot of people these days are saying that Wilder looked trash against Joseph Parker and Wallin did a lot better against Fury, and therefore Anthony Joshua was really the second best in the world. And it's him and Usyk and not Fury and Wilder. Well, it could also be the case that Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder just went to war a bunch of times and they're not the same fighters. But either way, Fury's still known for being like really clean and technical and good. And I mean, listen, look at what Ngannou did to him. And I don't think Anthony Joshua and his weird power, I mean, he's like super jacked and all that. He's in great shape. He's a big guy, but he doesn't have like this gnarly KO power. And he's been to war a couple of times as well. He's gotten chinned by Andy Ruiz, right? He's getting beat up by Usyk. I think that Ngannou is going to be willing to take some of those Anthony Joshua jabs, just like he did against Tyson Fury. And once again, eventually I just see that if this goes to a decision, it's going to be Anthony Joshua running around the ring, just surviving and not actually trying to beat Ngannou's ass. Because I know that if he actually goes out there and stands with Ngannou, all right, and stands with him, doesn't mean he has to scrap. He's going to find out that Ngannou's not going down to anything that he throws. Ngannou has one of the best chins in combat sports right now. I've seen this guy eat flush 4-ounce gloves in the heavyweight division to the chin multiple times. Not once have I seen this dude ever get rocked. And so, yeah, spare me with the whole Anthony Joshua's going to run through him. No, he's not. Okay? I don't even think that Volkanovski in his prime, maybe not post the Makhachev head kick KO. I think that Volkanovski, if he were to cross over to boxing, I think he'd go the distance with Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. Okay? And I also think O'Malley, Tank is actually a little bit of, listen, both guys are beasts. But Terrence Crawford destroyed Errol Spence. No, you don't understand how good Terrence Crawford is. Or maybe Errol Spence ain't that great. Okay? I still think these boxers win. I still think the lighter weight class boxers are still exceptional, but they're not as far ahead of the MMA fighters as you like to think, because the talent's just not the same. All right? I also can't wait to see how shitty the production is. It's going to be in Saudi Arabia, and there's like literally no atmosphere there. There's like 200 people, 200 billionaires, 100 millionaires, whatever. Cricket noises when they clap. They're not getting hyped up to see these fights. And the atmosphere is going to be shit. You already know there's going to be like an hour break in between the main event and the other fights on the prelims. Another reason why boxing is just terrible. You're getting hyped for prelims fights? I can't even figure out who's fighting on the prelims. You know what I mean? That's another issue. When the UFC puts on a card, I can see every single fight. I can see the faces. I can see the names on their website. All right? I could see it on the UFC's Instagram. They don't promote the prelim, guys. It's like the main event is a totally separate thing from all the other fights. So it's going to be rough to watch this production go down, even if I tune in before the co-main event. Even if I tune in after the co-main event, I'm still going to have to wait an hour for the main. But it is what it is. I'm going to watch. How could you not get excited for the 20-minute walkout that Francis Ngannou is going to have? That's going to be followed up by footage of Anthony Joshua getting his hands wrapped while Francis waits in the cage, or I shouldn't say the cage, the ring. And then Joshua does his walkout. And then they have 5 national anthems. And then they're going to wait another 20 minutes. And then they're going to have the fight, which boxing is just never as good as MMA to begin with. Again, all the legendary boxing fights that you could bring up, right? Fights with guys like Marty Lewis and guys like Roberto Duran, of course. Who's that other guy that someone's been telling me about, this amazing fight? Gotti Ward, right? All these fights were way back in the day, man. Way back in the day. Now, to be honest, Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, the trilogy, was one of the best fights I've ever seen, period. Okay? Across any combat sport. But listen, we get like 50 wars a year in MMA, maybe even more. Oh, in MMA, I mean the UFC. MMA, we're probably getting like 200 wars a year. High-level boxing is usually just a little bit boring. Fury and Ngannou, it was only entertaining because it was Ngannou in there, and we were also impressed at how well he was doing, and Tyson Fury was losing for the first time in a while. But the fight itself was a little bit slow. And that's kind of how it always is, unless there's a total mismatch, like there usually is with Anthony Joshua. Again, Francis would KO Otto Wallin within the first couple of rounds. He'd have no respect for him at all. Just like Anthony Joshua was walking him down, Francis would knock him out easily. So I don't want to hear anything about Otto Wallin. Listen, man, Francis is going to knock Anthony Joshua out, or he's going to go to a decision with him, and it'll be a close fight because Anthony Joshua may resort to just survival mode. But either way, I'm looking forward to this one. Ngannou is going to get a big payday, and he still hasn't had to fight in the PFL, right? Think about it like that. He's fighting these boxers where he doesn't have to do wrestling in the build-up. He doesn't have to kick or any of that. And then he's going to get to fight PFL cans. So Francis is doing pretty well. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.